the bigger needs are only getting bigger. And we are experiencing that. Our budgets are growing. They're larger than they've ever been.
This is The Fabulist. I'm Joel Pilger. Running a creative studio or production company looks glamorous from the outside, but inside, it's grit. It's pivots, faceplants, burnout, and finally, those moments when everything clicks. This is the podcast for founders by founders. Honest, drink-in-hand conversations that skip the show reel and get into the messy business of running a standout studio that produces truly great work. I've built studios, advised leaders, and today I run Forum, the private community for my guests and founders like them. Many conversations here continue there. Okay, ready? Let's get into it. To hear more of these episodes or to push your creative business forward, just go to joelpilger.com. Get ready for Barton Damer. Now, Barton is the founder and founding artist of Already Been Chewed. Now, that is the Wiley/Dallas-based studio that channels skate culture into high-end content like 3D and VFX and product work for brands like Nike and Louis Vuitton, Tiffany, Google, Lucasfilm, Disney, and Vans. Barton has built a very cool, family-friendly studio that's not on the coasts, but it is obsessively focused on storytelling and seriously legit photoreal craft. Now, early in his career, he famously was Scrappy, guessing email addresses and cold emailing his way into gigs like Street League and Scion. Now, while those moves are in the past, he still operates with a scrappy hustle today, just in different, smarter ways. So today, we go deep into the business side, running a standout studio, evolving client relationships, the trade-offs of growth, and what scrappiness looks like in 2025. Enjoy.
You just never know what's going to come from speaking engagements, podcast engagements, showing up at Fuse dinners with Joel Pilger. You just have no idea what's going to happen.
Dude, you honor me. So it's very cool for me to be able to say, yeah, Barton, he's one of us, right? But if you aspire to run a business like him, then listen up because the man's got it going on.
Cool.
Dude, I'm just going to rip away at some things and I'm going to try and pace this out so that we're under an hour, but you saw my little primer questions, right? Now, what's funny is as I was doing my preparation, I went back and watched some videos of you, some of the old stories and everything. So I have a lot more context now, which was really fun getting to know that side of you. And then I asked ChatGPT, give me like a 1 or 2 sentence summary of Barton. I'm curious, does this sound about right? You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Barton Damer is the founder and founding artist of Already Been Chewed, a Dallas-based studio that channels skate culture smarts into high-end 3D motion, VFX, and product campaigns for brands like Nike, Vans, New Balance, Lucasfilm, and Disney. He's built a tight, sustainable studio off the coasts. Love that. Lean, family-friendly, craft-obsessed, and relentlessly focused on storytelling and photoreal execution. So what do you think of that little two-liner?
Nice. Yeah.
Does that work?
It's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Did it get anything wrong?
The client list is maybe a little outdated, but other than that, it's pretty good.
Okay. So that list is always evolving. When I was doing this research, there was a story that you told that I was like, oh my gosh, I got to bring that up. Because there was something early in your career when you were telling this story of what I would call being super scrappy. About you were guessing, I think you were guessing either, is it Rob Dyrdek? Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah.
Or Brian Atlas is trying to guess their emails.
Yes.
And you were doing this cold outreach and you actually got through to somebody and one of them clicked on it and wrote back and said, let's do this. Sick shit. Right?
Yeah.
So here's the question. Have we lost that level of scrappiness, right? Like the guessing the email addresses, the in-person hustle, that bold outreach, right? That got you those early breaks? Because I remember doing those things too.
Yeah.
And I'm just worried, like people nowadays, it's like, well, I found the person on LinkedIn and I'm just going to sit here and do my Zoom call and sit behind my monitor, and that's all it takes to succeed in this industry.
Yeah, I would say if you have lost that ability to go after the cold lead, then there's a chance you're not drumming up business. It's still incredibly relevant and a big part of what we do today. We have to. We're in Wiley, Texas. And you and I have talked about this a little bit after some of those Fuse dinners. I'm not in New York City. I'm not in Los Angeles. So I don't have a 15, 20-year relationship with a producer that just feeds us work regularly. So we are always going after brands and always going after the right people within brands and then the wrong people. And sometimes the wrong people can lead you to the right people.
2 observations based on when you were here and we had dinner a few months ago in Chelsea. What occurred to me was you're pretty light on your feet. Like you're still getting out to New York and LA and places like that. The other thing I was just curious about is I sense that you leverage genuine passion, curiosity. Like part of the reason that you broke through to those types of clients back when you were getting started is because you had such a high, pardon the expression, such a high give a shit level. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking people pick up on that because I get the sense that if Barton is reaching out to you and saying, hey, we should jam on something, it's not just another cold email. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the brands that we work with, I'm super passionate about on all different levels. And you can go through our client list and it's stuff that I'm either wearing or drinking, or it's fitness brands that I'm engaged with. And so it really does reflect a lot of my personal interests and tastes. But then as our team has expanded, I've definitely tried to be like, what would you guys be excited about? Oh, okay, video gaming. Let's go after, for instance, Turtle Beach. They're one of our clients. And so I actually know nothing about video gaming. I don't play video games. I get nauseated when I play video games. I have motion sickness. But yeah, we've definitely been able to expand into like, okay, what are the guys on the team passionate about in addition to what I'm passionate about, and expanding in those areas as well.
Yeah, it seems like, has that been maybe a theme? Like how many years have you been in business now at ABC? And has that been a theme of like how you've gone after work and how you've connected with those clients and those brands?
Yeah, definitely. We celebrated our 15-year anniversary in March. So we are, 15 and a half years old now. And I think early on, I was a solo freelancer and thankfully was able to crack into some work over at Nike. And that was, for me, kind of a pinnacle moment of my career up to that point. And even to this day, 15 years later, incredibly blessed and thankful to say that Nike is our largest client over the last 15 years. Wow. And so when I was doing a variety of work for Nike, I was like, man, this is really cool. I bet you I could find some people to work with me on projects like this. And it was honestly that simple. It was like, I want to do more for them. So if I'm going to do more for them, I might need some help. And then from there, really tapping into, okay, hey, New Balance, I've done this with Nike. I can do this for you. Hey, Adidas. Hey, Under Armour, and all the other footwear brands. But then being able to have that on your resume, now you can go after a lot of other brands that aren't in the sneaker industry, just being able to say, look what I've done with Nike. I can do it for you too.
Yeah, I call that exploring the adjacencies, right? Where you're like, this is, right? If you're Nike, this is relevant to you, New Balance. But hey, New Balance is relevant to another brand, and you just continue expanding those circles.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny, you talked about being a freelancer in the early days and then starting to build a team and everything. If we fast forward to today, how different is your role now to how it's been over the years? Because I'm assuming it's evolving.
Yeah. So as the company grew, one of the early things that I implemented was I was going to be involved heavily up front in the project, getting the approvals, whether, obviously client interaction, developing a creative brief. But then for probably the first 8 to 10 years, I was on the box creating, whether it's that first, what we call a concept frame, getting the look development established, the environment, getting that approved by the client. And then I was animating a good 10-second test animation exploration and getting that approved by the client. And that allowed me to start outsourcing when I was one person. It's like, okay, I've got the look approved. I've got the animation style approved. Here's the rest of the shot list. And now I need somebody to help finish animating it. And for the first 8 to 10 years, that's what I did and was heavily on the box. And then honestly, once COVID hit, really had to look around and first of all, wonder, are we going to be in business? And is this all going to clear up by the time elections happen? Or are we just going to all go out of business waiting for November to happen?
Right. No doubt.
And during that time, that was really kind of a wake-up call of I need to be working on the business, not in the business, and made that kind of big transition. And part of that too was because it really wasn't worth it to me to lose my skills as an artist for a team of 7 to 8 people. I felt like I am not a CEO of 5 to 8 people. That's not something that I want to claim on my resume. So I am not losing any of my skills for this size group. And so I made sure that I was always on top of it, latest software, latest techniques, and things like that, because it just didn't seem like it was worth it to sacrifice those things until we got larger. So I think we were 12 people maybe when pandemic hit. And then we started hiring internationally and we went all the way up to, I think, 22 or 23 people at that point. And so once we got up to that like 14 to 16 range, I was like, okay, if I'm still having to come up here on a Saturday night and work on these projects, then I probably have hired all the wrong people. This is not working if I have to do that. And so it got to a point where I was like, okay, I am ready to start sacrificing my skills because I have redundancy in almost every single role in the studio. And that was some of the fear too. When you're a 4 to 8 person studio, it's like, well, if this one guy leaves, we can't do this one thing that we're known for. And so it was a sprint to be like, okay, how do I get 2 people that can do this on staff? How do I get 3 people that can do this on staff? And that was part of my mentality.
Dude, that's so interesting. Funny, I'm catching some parallels with my story, similar numbers, right? Where around maybe 15 to 20 people was when I realized I have to fire myself as an artist sitting here operating Flame and doing 3D. And that's when I went through a shift because I realized as much as I don't want to let go of this, there are people that are even better at the craft than me. And my genius was really running the company, working on the business, being out there doing sales and development and stuff. Has your role shifted in similar ways? Like who is predominantly doing the sales, the relationship building?
Yeah.
The pitching and coming up with ideas and all that stuff. Is that mostly you or?
That would be mostly me. I definitely have people supporting me. So I've got systems in place when we have a new client, and Ariel is her name. She helps me keep those things organized, reaching out to clients. And then also my son, Coben, is part of the process now. And so when new clients approach us, those two will work with me on starting to develop estimates. And then I'll jump in and finalize creative ideas and details. And then Aaron is my head of production. He'll look over the estimates, make sure that technically everything makes sense. And so the creative piece has not been solved for in my absence. And that's something that I have longed to solve for is how do I get this business to operate with or without me? And I think for years that was my goal. And I'm not saying that it's not my goal anymore, but I also have come across recently just the idea that it might not be possible to replace me. And what I mean by that is imagine, I don't know, but can Tesla run without Elon Musk? Not that I'm Elon Musk smart level, but can Steve Jobs and Apple operate without Steve Jobs? They are, and they're profitable, but are they as innovative without Steve Jobs,
Man, that's such an interesting question. I always come back to this idea of we each have this genius, right? This superpower, this thing that we love doing, and it produces amazing results when we focus on it. And yeah, when you have that, you start to realize maybe it is irreplaceable. And I will say, I think you are very similar to a lot of founders I know in that some of them call it setting the pace. Or keeping the bar high, because often the creative founder, right? You have the respect of your team because they know at any time Barton can probably sit down and grab the stylus and throw down. And everyone knows, don't phone it in, right?
Right.
Don't take the shortcuts. Don't fake it, because Barton is keeping the bar high. Does that resonate?
Yeah, for sure. And there's probably times where over the years I've made sure that I don't jump in and quote unquote save a project. And then, you get to a point where it's okay, I actually can't jump in and save this project. Like I have the vision for it, but I don't know the software at the level that I used to. And this industry moves so quickly that you're not in the software on a daily basis. Within a year or two, you're going to be really rusty. And the only thing you have to rely on that point is your artistic vision. And so I'm definitely operating the company through an artistic vision now versus hanging my hat on the fact that, well, I could jump in and do this just as good as you guys as if I needed to. I can no longer say that.
And there's a humility and honesty there, I think, that's refreshing and just respectful of the people who are crushing the craft and those tools at that level.
Yes. And they are amazing. And like you mentioned earlier, it's finding people who are better at modeling than you are, better at Houdini than you are, and the list goes on.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a fan. Like, I think you and I became acquainted because I knew about ABC and I had seen your work, and I had always from a distance been like, damn, that work is really aggressive and really leaning forward. And I just loved that energy and that, I don't know, tenacity that I know what it takes, right, to produce that type of work. So I'm just always like, man, amazing. And then when you and I were at Camp MoGraph together, I think I heard you speaking at one of the fireside chats. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, Barton's here. And I loved how candid, how honest, how generous. And also how, I don't know, I think there was a not going to take shit off of anyone type of attitude I heard in you. Not that you were disrespectful, but you have a very like, hey, what we do is serious and it's valuable. And the way I conduct my business is respectful of that. Anyways, I just had to share that story because it was so cool meeting you and getting to hang out with you in person at that experience.
Nice. Yeah. And I think maybe what you're referring to is I put my artists first because I genuinely believe that I can find other clients and I don't want to find other artists. And if we're going to be able to do and create and provide the value that brands find with us, we have to be able to do it our way. And I liken it to construction. So I've been fortunate enough to be involved in renovation projects, home builds, swimming pool additions, things like that. And I cannot call the swimming pool company on a Friday night and yell at them and say, hey, I want to be able to show my wife that the concrete has been poured on Monday morning. So the swimming pool company would look at me like, cool story, bro, but like the rebar is not even down. Here's your schedule that we already gave you. The rebar goes down next Friday. After the rebar goes down, the following Friday is when your concrete will be poured. So you can tell your wife that 2 Mondays from now, you can show her the concrete inside of the swimming pool. And so I've learned and I've tried to put myself in that situation and learn business principles from those renovations and construction projects and apply it to our business here. And a client can't call me on a Friday night and say, hey, I've got a big meeting Monday. Can you get all the animations ready for me by then? And it's, no, you haven't even approved the style boards. And if you check the schedule that we gave you, the style boards will be ready this coming Friday. And then once they're approved, we'll start animating the following Friday. And so I implement that into our business model because it's like, why can't I call the swimming pool company and scare them into getting me something? It's just not possible. And so you get a bigger team and bigger animations and projects. And I appreciate that you're angry right now and that you wish you could have something for Monday morning, but heaven and earth can't move to make that happen, and refer back to your schedule that we provided to you.
Yeah, my version of that one is you want a baby? It takes 9 months, right? And we're 3 months in, and I'm telling you, what you get now is not going to be what you want. Now I'm curious about this though, dude, because I think a lot of your peers would hear that and they might rattle off some sort of, I'm going to call it an excuse. Like, oh yeah, well, if my reel was as cool as Barton's, or if we had Nike or whatever, like excuse. But I'm curious, because I think what I heard you say was that over the years, you probably had those clients that tried to pull that on you or make those demands. And you said, hey, can't do that. And maybe some of those people are no longer your clients, but the people who respected the process and trusted you and you delivered are the ones that are probably still your clients, which makes me wonder, is it better to run a studio that's twice the size, but half of your clients yank your chain and drive you nuts and you're on the phone answering their calls Friday nights? Or is it better to run a studio the size that ABC is and have really good clients that respect the process and value what you do? Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, there's a saying that the person that wins the negotiation is the person that's willing to walk away. And I've taken that into this company. So before I even started it, I was looking at things like, do I even want to do this for these types of clients? Because I don't want to become the owner of a studio that I wouldn't work for. So if this turns into the place that even I'm not stoked on, I'm just going to try and get a job directly at Nike or some other cool place that I admire, or a brand where I could be a creative director and take that dream job if I can land it. But I'm not going to force this studio on me or on anyone else. And when it comes to those difficult clients, I have the mindset of this business only works if I enjoy it. If I don't enjoy it, we should all look at each other and say, this kind of sucks. Do we really enjoy these clients? Do we really enjoy being treated like this? Let's just be honest with each other. And you're super talented. Maybe you could go work over there and I'll help you.
Yeah.
But let's not keep dragging ourselves through the mud over this if this is how it's going to be.
Dude, I so appreciate what you're saying. And I'll put a pattern to what you're describing, because I would say most studios, most production companies that have been in business maybe as long as you, at least 5, maybe 10 years, most of them are going through a shift where they maybe used to do a lot of work for ad agencies. And that maybe didn't go so well because of some of these things we've talked about. And then they start doing more work for entertainment, but entertainment is going through some challenges and it's fragmenting and so forth. And now people are waking up and just saying, hey, let's go work directly with the brands.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder, right? Because the sales cycle and the building the relationships and so forth is more challenging.
Yes.
But I'm curious, are you on a similar journey or evolution? And is part of it driven by the kind of people that you want to work with?
Yeah, for sure. We have always been a direct-to-brand business model. So for the last 15 years, we just went straight to brands. And we work with agencies once a year, if that.
Okay.
Once every 2 years. And typically they're difficult experiences. And no matter how much you educate them and tell them your process and talk them through the contract that they're agreeing to, it all comes down to that producer.
Yeah.
And we've been in situations where a producer has a spreadsheet and she knows that she just needs to find 2 Houdini artists, 3 Cinema 4D artists, and 2 After Effects artists, a ZBrush artist. And that's all she cares about. And so she calls and she's like, do you have these people? And you could tell she's not listening. She hasn't read the contract. And then you get on to the project and the creative director doesn't understand why he can't be on Slack directing your team all day long. And then you have to remind the creative director, who's never heard of this before because the producer did not inform him, hey, you're going to hear from us next Friday. You don't hear from us in between. And then on that Friday, you'll give us collective feedback, and then you won't hear from us until the following Friday. And it can turn into a nightmare situation if that producer wasn't actually doing their job and making sure that they understood what they were signing up for when they work with us. And then there are some scenarios where you come across a producer and that person is like, hey, I know we don't have a checkpoint now. I can get extra budget if we can have an additional meeting here or change the scope of work there. And that's when you fall in love with that agency, that producer. And they're the ones that are preemptively saying, I realize this is out of scope. And it's, we love working with you.
Yeah. People that are respecting the process, but also bringing that flexibility of, hey, can you pivot with us? We're going to be very considerate, literally and figuratively, that. It's so interesting to hear you say that you've always been a model that was built to work brand direct. Okay. That was not always my experience, but I'll just say that maybe in my first 7 or 8 years, it wasn't. And then shifted, started working for like satellite TV, big companies and that sort of thing. And I always just found it like natural. We have big ideas. We want to go talk to the decision makers and make the thing. We never thought of ourselves as an agency.
Yeah.
But man, we had a lot of fun doing that once we built those relationships. Do you often look at your peers and wonder why more shops aren't just going right into the brands?
I don't think about that aspect of it too much, to be honest. We're just busy doing our thing here in Wiley, Texas. But having been exposed to a little more of that model, again, some of these Fuse dinners and hearing some of the conversations, there is a part of me that's, oh, wow, you have a ton of work that comes in through relationships that you have from people in the city here. Whereas my relationships are internet-based with our clients, and our relationships are only as good as the scope of work and how it's been respected or not respected. And so I definitely have some envy and some jealousy of, wow, there's like people that just flood you with work regularly.
Right.
That must be nice until you piss that person off.
Yeah, of course. Well, I just look at the work that you're doing and I think, man, it would be, I guess I'm going to just insert my own opinion here, but I can't imagine the work that you've been doing would be as strong and clear if you had been working through a bunch of middlemen all along, if you follow me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So as you're moving forward now and you're just seeing this continual evolution, I'm curious to ask you this question. Do you see a pattern where perhaps when you started, you were basically performing services and selling services, and then it starts to shift into, we're really an expertise business? And as you go forward, are there even potential opportunities that you're getting into authorship, into IP, into maybe creating products or some of that stuff? I'm just curious to get your thoughts on how that evolution is happening.
Yeah. So I was maybe what some would call a late bloomer when it comes to launching out and creating Already Been Chewed. I'd never worked for a studio in my life before. Still to this day, ABC is the only studio I've ever worked for. But the reason I bring that up is because from day one, I think I was always selling expertise. And so I literally have never worked on a day rate. And I've never gone into a studio. I had studios in New York and Los Angeles when I first went out on my own that wanted me to give them a day rate, and they would add me to their database and their spreadsheet when they need to fill a spreadsheet in. And I just wouldn't do it. I didn't understand the day rate. I was trying to be paid a flat rate for my expertise. And I think it helped too, because the clients that I was able to land originally respected that. And in my mind, I had already done everything from graphic design to web design to video editing to 3D animation. And so I was like, what are you going to put me on a day rate for? I can do everything for you. Some of my very first clients, Malibu Boats being one of them, I literally designed their logo. I laid out their 75-page catalog, and I did fully 3D animated commercials that aired on NBC for the same client, all by myself or with some outsourcing as we started to grow.
So you were almost like a micro agency / creative studio all in one.
Yeah, so I never viewed myself as a freelancer. And I didn't even know what they were talking about, like day rate. Day rate for what? Let me just give you a price to elevate your brand.
I'm so glad to hear you share that story, because I feel like I am always beating this drum, and I'm the only one saying it. Don't charge for your time. Do not sell services. Like, you've got to escape that trap. And I love hearing your story of, hey, I did that from the start, and what a difference it's made. So are there opportunities as you move forward that you see yourself saying, gosh, the way we package this expertise, or maybe we will create some of our own intellectual property with some of this, or do those sort of ideas or opportunities roll around in your head?
We've dabbled with creating our own IP over the years. Of course, during the NFT market, that was a big thing.
Sure.
Everybody had a roadmap and everybody thought they were going to be the next Disney and create video games, and people would buy into that roadmap. And we did some of that back then as well, but it was mainly through other brands. And then we did do a passion project that was in between like downtime for our studio, in between client feedback and things like that. And it was where we reimagined a lot of the old iconic skateboard graphics.
Ooh.
But those were all just things that didn't make money and haven't been enough to catapult us into developing our own IP. I think the NFT world moved so quickly that we were juggling client work. And by the time we developed our own IP, it had come and gone.
Yeah. I think it's something that we all see as a possibility out there, and we're always looking for maybe the moment will come, maybe the right client will want to develop something with us and we'll co-invest or those kinds of things. But yeah, I was just curious. But it sounds like the day in, day out, you're still producing projects for clients, very output and outcome based.
I do understand, I'll say this, I do understand why people would rather sell their time than their expertise. And it's because they have either been burned by putting it on a flat rate, or they're not willing to take that risk of putting it on a flat rate. And so if they can say, hey, my day rate is whatever their day rate is, then it's just real cut and dry in their mind. You're booking me for 8 days. Oh, you need a 9th day? Oh, you need a 10th day? Okay, cool. And so that is very safe, and it's a very good way to easily wrap your head around, I'm just going to get paid no matter what. And I would say the problem with that is your project needs to get finished. Your client isn't going to be real happy if you tell them it's going to take me 20 days. But then on day 20, the project is 75% done, and you're just looking at it saying, cool, you need to book me for more days. That's not going to create repeat business, at least not in my opinion. And they're working with set budgets, and nobody's going to give an open credit card to one person, let alone an entire staff of, okay, you think this is going to take 5 people 4 weeks, and that's going to give me this budget. But what if it takes 5 weeks? What if it takes 6 weeks? Are we just approving an open credit card at this point? And I don't know of a CMO that's going to agree to that.
Well, you said the magic word back there, which was risk.
Yes.
Right? Because the difference between hiring a bunch of freelancers and hiring a studio is risk, right? The studio actually assumes risk, and this is why they charge so much more money. Because think about it, right, Barton? If you and I hire a freelancer and that's $1,000, if that person goes over and takes an extra day and it's $2,000, it's like, okay, I'm out that much extra money. That's one thing. But when it's $100,000, I am not going to risk the bill coming in at 200 and the project being delayed and us missing our air date. So I go to ABC and I go, I need you to figure this out and figure this, like, right, solve this by this date. It's got to be on brief. It's got to be everything. Can you do it? And you go, yep, we're going to take on a lot of risk because we don't know everything, and we're going to have to solve a lot and manage you. But that's why brands come to you and trust you, right?
Yeah, the day rate thing is just, it's silly in my opinion, because if we're going off of a day rate, then technically my slowest, least experienced artist is the most valuable in the entire company.
Thank you. Thank you. Which it's kind of the opposite, right? The person who's the fastest is actually the most valuable, ironically. So it's inverted.
Yes. And that's the funny discussion with agencies is they'll guilt you into, well, I need some transparency. Where does this number come from? Because they want a spreadsheet with everyone's day rates and how many days they're going to work on it. So the first thing I'll say is, okay, if I give that to you, are you also agreeing that if we go over, you're just going to keep writing checks? Okay. No? Okay. So you actually do want it on a flat rate then. So then it's up to me to figure out how to make this a profitable project or not.
Totally. This is where the insight I gained over my years was, people buy from you the same way they sell. And if you look at agencies, almost all of them charge for their time. That's what a giant AOR retainer is. We have these people, these rates, these times. So when they come to you, they can't think of any way they would buy from you other than the way they sell.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I have tried to flip the script on that discussion. So when an agency says, I need transparency, how did you come to this number? I will tell them, here's the transparency for you. I have 5 other clients that are hitting me up with projects. Their budgets are larger and their brands are willing to pay this for the same amount of work. So if you would like to submit your budget, I can compare it to the other ones that I'm considering right now and let you know if we decide to work with you.
That's
and their jaw drops about as far as yours just did.
yeah. What I love about that is, right, we're not naming names. We're not calling anybody out right now. We're not trying to shame anybody. But you are giving the perspective of, hey, as a business owner, it's not as simple as you pick me and we start working for you. Because every client you work with, you pick them as well. And I think it's worth just putting it out there and saying, Barton is also picking you and saying, yes, client, I'm going to invest me and my team and all of our resources and all of our passion and all of our energy and all of our freaking wisdom and everything we've developed. We're going to put all of that to work for you for the next month. That's really valuable and significant.
Yeah, I hate the word award, that we're going to award you the project. I refuse to use it. I don't use it in emails back to them. I don't use it in verbal communication. I don't use that word.
What do you call it?
Just that we're going to enter a contract and start working together.
Dude, that's actually really interesting. Yeah, do me a solid. What is it about the word award that rubs you wrong?
It's the dangling of the carrot mentality of, you all dance for us. And if we like your dance, we'll award it to you. And that's where the pitching comes in too.
Wow.
And the pitching is the dance.
Yes. Yes. This is so interesting, dude, because the language we use is important.
And it's condescending, in my opinion, to say, we're going to award this for you. That's okay.
I mean, there's a very common mentality, I will say, especially amongst business owners that are addicted to cash, understandably. But the mentality is, pick me. And what they don't understand is, you see this, right? You see this when people post on social and they talk about we and us and our work and our spot and all these things. And there's this implied, we really just want you to pick us. Mm-hmm. And that's what that word award, it suggests that. Please award your thing to us. Gift us.
Yep.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And I have, whether right or wrong, I have always looked at from a distance the artist, the commercial artist and agent business model, in the sense that if there's like this was far more popular probably in the early 2000s and definitely in the 90s, where it's like you have certain artists that are in demand and they're able to land gigs for cover of magazines back in the day and things like that. And I think those artists are able to be selective on who they want to work with, because if they're not, their art is not quite as valuable. And I don't think that means you're cocky or arrogant. I just think it's protecting your brand. And sometimes it's going to make you more valuable if the answer to a client is, I'm sorry, we just don't have time to pitch on this. We have other projects coming in the door that don't require us to pitch.
Well, there's something beneath or behind what you're suggesting that I'm going to call irreplaceability. And the struggle I often see is when we as businesses are putting ourselves out there and going after work, clients, projects, where we are completely replaceable, we suffer. And maybe what I'm hearing from you is, I feel like you've gotten clear on, hey, this is what makes us different, special, irreplaceable. Mm-hmm. And make sure you're always doubling down on that, because this is why people are going to say, we need that artist not just a service provider, not a button pusher, not a line on a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah. And the growth of ABC has been slow and organic. We're 15 years old. We've got 16 people on staff, and all of those decisions are based off of, oh, I like the clients we work with, and I could use more help in this way. And so there's not a pressure. And so in those early days, however it comes across, some people might say it's arrogant. Some people might say it's genius, but it was like, I just don't have the time to pitch. Like, we're busy doing stuff and we're not large enough to pitch. I don't have a team that's available to pitch for you. If I have a team that's available to pitch, it means we're probably not doing well as a business when you're only 4 people deep in the early days or 8 people deep. If you're running around pitching quite a bit, that's a lot of downtime. And I would imagine it's not a great situation to be in.
Well, you're probably going to be a lot more expensive, because if half your time is pitching and proposing and all that, when you actually win the job, you got to make twice as much money.
Right.
For the one job to cover all the costs that, that got you there.
Yep.
So here's maybe a thought to do a little bit of a pivot and just head towards a conclusion, as we're here at 47 minutes in. I am curious. I sense from you that you're a pretty optimistic person. And I'm just curious because you're in the feeds, right? You're seeing all of the freakouts and the disruptions and the negativity and so forth. What is it that keeps you excited about the future and where things are going for you, for ABC?
Yeah, I would be lying if I say that there aren't some uncertainty. And for part of that reason, we have been on a little bit of a hiring freeze, even though I felt like I probably could add a good 3 or 4 people on staff over the last year or so. I'm like, you know what? Let's just play this out and see what's happening with AI and see how it affects us. Because I don't feel like bringing on 3 or 4 people and then finding out that maybe I have to lay them off a year later. So there's definitely a legitimate, okay, what is happening? How is it going to affect us? I would say for now, the optimism is high in the sense that we've personally experienced AI fatigue amongst clients already. And I'll give you an example. This is a personal example for myself. So many people are out there generating AI business models because it's easy to do. And so I get hit up probably 5 to 10 times per day from AI lead generators. We can generate 50 calls per month for you with top brands, creative, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, about maybe 6 months ago, I was like, what is this all about? Maybe I should check it out. Everybody needs leads that'll allow us to be more selective with the more lead generation we could get. So I jumped on a video chat with one of these lead generators. And when I got on, it was probably a 22-year-old. And he jumps on and he says, oh, wait, what was this meeting for? And I said, nothing. And I hung up. And I continue to get all these AI generated business models. So that being said, imagine it's already very difficult as a studio owner to find people that can actually do what's in their portfolio and figure out exactly what they're capable of doing, whether that's a Houdini artist or Cinema 4D artist. They've got this killer portfolio, and then you start working with them, and then you find out like, oh, but you needed 3 months to do that, not 3 days to do that. Or, oh, you literally copied a tutorial when you did that, but you're not sure how to make any revisions to this. That's already a challenging process. Yeah. So just imagine being a CMO at a brand and being hit up by thousands of AI artists and weeding through the ones that can actually do something besides prompt and not be able to get to the final destination. So the optimism is, I think there's going to be a leaning into to humans, because I'm at a point now where I'm like, man, if a real person emails me with a real personality and a real capability to generate leads, I'm going to take that video chat because I'm so sick and tired of AI generated business models that are just popping up everywhere and are wasting time. And so a client example of that is with the AI fatigue. We had a client, I'll leave their name out, but a very large client. And we were doing what we would consider some of our favorite, some of our best work. And they loved it as well, but they kept looking at their competitors, and their competitors were putting out just these trendy, what I would consider crappy quantity, not quality videos.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so this client kept coming to us and saying, hey, can we do something for cheaper and do it like this? And pointing to those quicker, crappier videos. And I eventually had to have a conversation with them. I was like, hey, just so you know, your competitors that you're referencing are actually hitting us up wondering how on earth you guys do this stuff. And they're so happy to have found the vendor that creates this for you all. You're looking at their quick, crappy marketing and wanting to be like them. And they're looking at the things that we've been doing for you, and they don't know how to do it. And I thought
They
that
want
I
to be more like you.
And I thought that I had maybe offended them because we didn't hear from them for a good year after that conversation. And
Whoa.
Yeah. But then they came back maybe a year and a half later, and their budget had almost tripled from the last project we had worked on with them. And it was out of nowhere. And we can only to this day guess that they had gone down that path of quicker, crappier, AI generated marketing. And somebody up top said, what are we doing? Like, we need to get back to what we were doing. And so they came back, and budgets were far larger, and we're working with them to this day.
What a great story. Yeah, it's like I understand the optimism now. And you're also affirming something to me in that some of the things that we've been teaching inside of Forum as owners saying, hey, how do we do outreach? We keep coming back to it has to be human, it has to be empathetic, it has to be curiosity driven. Mm-hmm. It cannot be just crank up the AI and let it spray the world and, to use your example.
I will say just a quick analogy with the AI. When the iPhone put a camera on their phone, that was essentially, now everyone's a photographer, everyone's a videographer. And so this is an interesting stat that I looked up recently. I might have the numbers slightly off, but the point remains the same. Since the iPhone was introduced, the consumer grade camera sales have gone down. I believe it's 92%. Okay. But I was like, okay, but what about high end cameras like Alexas? That market has continued to go up. And so AI is going to be the iPhone camera, in my opinion. Yes, there is a consumer level marketing that can happen with AI that is gone. Like, it's replaced people already. Just same way some people will use the iPhone for their photos instead of a real photographer. But at the end of the day, there's still a thriving video business when you need to do it right and you need to do it well. You're either looking at free on the iPhone or hundreds of thousands of dollars on a real production team. And so I am wondering and hoping that's going to be what happens with the AI, at least for a little while. I'm also not naive enough to realize that the AI will continue to get better and we'll have to juggle that. But at least for now, I feel like that's what we're experiencing with AI, and our clients are. If we just need the everyday stuff, yeah, that job might be gone. They might not be outsourcing that job anymore, but the bigger needs are only getting bigger, and we are experiencing that. Our budgets are growing. They're larger than they've ever been, but we've lost the smaller budget projects, and even the medium-sized projects, they don't come knocking on our door, at least for the last year or two.
I'm guessing those are the more replaceable type of asks. And I love the iPhone example because I also think of the taste, the point of view, right? That the role that expertise and experience plays. Because if you and I hire a Hollywood DP, what he's going to do with the iPhone or what he's going to do with an Alexa is different than what the average consumer is going to do with it.
Yep.
And that's the thing that we all forget about is we think, oh, this tool is going to make I don't have value anymore because everyone has access to this tool.
Yeah.
But Barton is a human, and Barton's point of view and taste and experience is so irreplaceable.
Yeah, and that has me feeling optimistic. But yeah, I'd be lying if I say like the Monday after Google Veo 3 was released that I wasn't second guessing life a little bit.
Right?
But then I started using it and I was like, nah, we're good.
Yeah. Dude, I can't say thanks enough for jumping on and having this conversation and sharing your insider baseball and point of view on the business side. And just huge congrats for the 15 years. And I love that there's still like this optimism and that you're excited about where your business is going and where the industry is going. So dude, hats off.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for chatting with me here.
Thanks for listening, and huge thank you to our amazing audio partner, Coop Studios, who makes this show possible. If you're serious about running a resilient studio or production company that unleashes your greatest creative work, apply to join Forum. Learn more at joelpilger.com, and I'll see you there.